Wuxia, directly translating to martial arts chivalry, is a centuries-old genre focusing on the adventures of martial artists in ancient China. Wuxia narratives follow the archetypical journey of the hero protagonist, with an emphasis on the character's natural strength, composure, and vigor. Traditionally, this character is a man, and their heroism is demonstrated through conforming to tropes associated with hypermasculinity. While the male wuxia protagonist is dynamic and round, their female love interest is static and flat, and conforms to traditional gender roles, being a passive actor within the narrative whose need to be saved by the male character is often a plot and narrative device that is used to further the male hero's journey. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and House of Flying Daggers are two immensely successful modern wuxia films that have emerged with dynamic female protagonists. This video essay will compare how the two films either subvert or conform to gender roles in traditional wuxia film by comparing the characterization of both female protagonists, the extent to which romance is used as a narrative device, and the depiction of sex on screen. In Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Jen Yu, the young and ambitious female protagonist, thieves the Green Destiny, the powerful sword belonging to the respected master, Li Mu Bei. Despite Li Mu Bei and his partner Xu Len knowing of Jen's actions, they decide not to confront her, and rather attempt to nurture her natural talent with the hopes of mentoring her. Jen, in what ultimately may be described as a series of immature actions in response to her own internal conflict resulting from her looming arranged marriage, defies expectation in her skill and capacity, and her rejection of Li Mu Bei as a master. Jen is characterized by her independence, confidence, rejection of authority figures, and natural ability, as demonstrated through agile choreography, body language, and acting. Jen's characterization subverts traditional gender roles associated with wuxia film, for her physical and mental strength and dominant presence reject any notion of obedience, passivity, or dependence. This characterization starkly contrasts that of Mei, the female protagonist in House of Falling Daggers. Mei disguises herself as the blind daughter of a former leader of an anti-government martial arts warrior organization to seduce and capture government operatives. However, by disguising herself as this blind woman, Mei is characterized for a significant portion of the film as a passive and helpless woman in need of saving, letting the male government official following her protect her rather than using her own martial arts skills to assert herself. In this way, Mei attempts to weaponize conformity to traditional gender roles. Mei's dependence on the male protagonist, Jin, is shown through the parallel editing of Mei in distress in combative situations until eventually she is saved by Jin and they return to an affectionate embrace. Costume and expression also contribute to Mei's helpless woman characterization. After scenes of combat, Mei is shown to be in tattered clothing that hangs off her body, panting, looking exhausted. The choice to have Mei impersonate a blind woman establishes a character dynamic between her and Jin of dependency. The framing and composition of Mei and Jin running through the forest illustrates these gender roles, having Mei constantly pictured behind Jin, being led by Han in a submissive and passive role. Finally, the motif of beauty as the most valuable asset and weapon of Mei's reinforces the notion that as a woman, her power lies in her physical appearance rather than her ability. Beauty is referred to throughout the film, most notably in the soundtrack, where Mei sings, "Rare beauty in the north, she's the finest lady on earth. A glance from her, the city falls. A second glance leaves the whole nation in ruins. There is no city or nation that has been more cherished than a beauty like this," foreshadowing the destructive power that her beauty is proposed to have within the plot. Romance is often a narrative element in the wuxia genre, used as a source of motivation for the male protagonist on his journey. The extent to which both films embrace romantic narratives speaks to the way in which both conform to or subvert traditional gender roles within wuxia and popular culture. In Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, romance is used as a secondary plot point for both Jen and her former lover Lo, and between Xu Len and Li Mu Bei. These relationships are used to express the feelings of entrapment that both women feel as women within their society. Jen, unable to marry who she loves due to tradition, and Xu Len, unable to be with Li Mu Bei for the duty of their work. The women discuss romance within this context as part of their want to be free. Furthermore, Jen is in complete control of the romantic narrative and chooses to reject Lo to pursue her own life and aspirations as a martial artist, subverting traditional narrative of wuxia film. Conversely, romance is a primary element of the plot in House of Flying Daggers. Mei attempts to seduce Jin for the benefit of her rebel group, however ends up falling in love herself, and then becoming involved in a love triangle that ultimately leads to her death. This tragic romantic resolution to the conflict, as shown through the extreme long shots of the vast open space and onset of winter that define the dramatic final scene, conform to the romantic narrative that is presented in many wuxia films that place female characters outside a position of power, in this example, Mei losing control of her life at the hands of jealous former lovers. Extending on romance as a narrative element to the wuxia genre, the portrayal of sex on screen is significant in addressing how both films embrace traditional gender roles. In Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Jen is shown to have sensual and consensual sex with Lo that she enjoys and embraces. This very basic understanding of her on-screen relationship towards sex subverts the traditional gender roles associated with women and sex in wuxia that would normally portray her as a passive participant, her purpose only to fulfill the desires of the male character. This contrasts greatly to the depiction of sex in House of Flying Daggers. At first, sex appears to be portrayed as one of the few ways for Mei to gain power over the men she wishes to capture by seduction. As the film progresses, sex is portrayed on screen closely related to violence, with rape scenes and non-consensual encounters frequently occurring, which are never addressed or condemned. In this way, the film reinforces traditional gender roles that establish a power dynamic between men, women, and sex that put women in an inferior, passive position used for the gratification of the male character, manifesting in sexual violence. In summation, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and House of Flying Daggers differ greatly for the way in which they manipulate gender roles. In the former, Jen deliberately subverts traditional gender roles to advance the plot of the film, depicting her as a strong and dynamic character capable of complexity beyond her relationship with her lover. In the latter, Mei is shown to conform to traditional gender roles to advantage her, but is then ultimately murdered as a result.